The louder you shout, the smaller your message becomes. And research shows that when you raise your voice, the listener's brain does not focus on your words. It focuses on survival and your message gets lost. Think about it. Have you ever raised your voice in frustration? Only feel to like no one actually listened. And shouting does not raise your influence. It lowers it. And shouting may silence someone's words, but it never wins their heart. And communication in families is not about volume. It is about presence, respect, and connection. If you want your family to truly hear you, you don't need to get louder. You need to get safer. And today I will show you how. So welcome to Heal, Align, and Thrive with Priti Kang. I'm your host Priti Kang, a former tech leader turned life transformation coach. And for years I thrived in the high pressure corporate world. On the outside I was leading teams, hitting milestones, and checking every box of success. On the inside I was silently battling stress, self-doubt, and already exhausted. And one of the hardest parts, feelings like my voice was not truly heard. And earlier in life, I had already experienced the power of communication. I lost my mom when I was very young, and I don't carry memories of her, but I always carried the gap she left. And my dad becomes my anchor. What made our bond so strong was not just his presence. It was the safety I felt with him. He did not need to shout. His calm presence, his listening, his patience, those were the things that made me lean in. And that's when I realized the strongest voices are often the softest ones, and the ones that carry respect, the ones that carry safety. And in my years of working in corporate, this healing journey, also with my personal life, I have seen the same truth again and again. In families, the goal is not to win argument. The goal is to build connection that lasts. So in today's episode, we are going to explore why shouting never works in the long run and what it actually does to the brain, and the invisible skills of communication that most families overlook: respect, presence, and emotional connections. And 3 simple science-backed tools you can start practicing today to express yourself clearly and be heard without conflict. And I will also guide you through the short reflective practice so you can feel the shift for yourself. So let me take you back to my corporate career. I was leading high stakes project. My role was more on coordination. There is always deadlines, work rushing, and tension always were sky high. And I gave the same instructions again and again when I worked with team, but no one seemed to be listening. And finally, sometime out of frustration, I raised my voice. And sometimes people get silent, but not because they suddenly start respecting me. It was silence out of fear. That silence was not connection, it was distance. And later the days, I thought of my dad. Growing up without my mom, I often longed for the warmth and reassurance she might have given. But my dad gave me something that mattered just as much: a safe space. He never needed to shout for me to listen. His calm presence, his willingness to hear me out without judgment made me want to lean in. That's when it clicked. Communication is not about force. It is about energy, exchanging energy. When people feel attacked, they close. When the people feel respected, they open. And that principle is just as true in families as it is in corporate life and in office. Because at the end of the day, every relationship is human, and humans crave safety more than they crave instruction. So let's talk about why shouting does not work. Science shows shouting activates the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and stress hormones like cortisol floods our system when center get activated. In that state, the part of the brain that process logic and language, it gets shut down. In other words, when you shout, The brain literally can't hear your words. It only hears the threat in your voice, whatever you give me. And when you raise your voice, their heart raises its walls. And research in family psychology shows the children raised in shouting household are more likely to develop anxiety and avoidance pattern. And the second, the invisible skills of communication. Number one, respect. Psychologists call respect the gateway to trust. Speak in the way that says your feelings matters, even if I disagree, and respect opens ears. Number two is the presence. A Stanford study found that maintaining eye contact and eliminating distraction when we talk increase emotional recalls by 40%. And presence opens heart. Third one is the emotional connection. Albert's study showed that communication is only 7% words, 38% tone, 55% body language. And empathy opens trust. So remember, respect open ears, presence open hearts, and empathy open trust. And let's talk about for 3 tools for the family which actually help us to improve our communication. The pause before reply. Neuroscience research shows a 3 to 5 second pause before responding lowers stress reactivity and increase more empathy. Instead of reacting, you start responding. Just remember that next time you feel your voice is rising, inhale deeply for a few seconds before you speak, and you will see the difference. Tool number 2, reflecting listening. In therapy, reflective listening reduces conflict by 35%. Example, if your teenagers say, "You don't understand me," instead of defending, just reflect, you feel misunderstood. That one line actually make the difference when change whole perspective. And the third one, the gentle language. Replace your I blaming with ownership. When you say, "I feel unheard," when this happens, words are like medicine that actually change our whole things. So instead of saying blaming, take ownership. And let's do little bit small reflecting. Take a slow deep breath and exhale. And bring in your mind in one family members. You often have a clash within communication when you do that. Now picture yourself about to speak to them. Instead of reacting, you pause, you breathe. And your gentle words, you say, "I hear you. Tell me more." And notice how your body softness. Notice how your shoulder relax. This is the power of presence. And science confirms it too. When we regulate our tone and body language, we co-regulate the other person's nervous system. And your calmness invites their calmness. They also get calm. So remember, there's 3 tools. Here is your challenge for the week before we close. Choose one conversation where you normally get frustrated. And it could be within your partner, your children, or your parent or your sibling. And the next time that conversation happens, don't shout. Instead, pause, reflect back, or shift your language from blame to ownership. And then watch the difference. Notice how the tone of conversation get changed, and notice how the other person responding. Because communication is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It is about being the safest. And remember that soft voices often carry the strongest message because they carry respect and safety. So if this episode spoke to you, subscribe to Heal, Align and Thrive so you never miss the next conversation in our Family Connection series, and share this with someone you love, because one shift in how you speak can change the entire relationship. So thank you. I'm your host Priti Kang. We will see you again in the next week for the next episode. Thank you.